Valorant is a game where every great play or perfect team is balanced out by hundreds of whiffed shots and terrible teammates. For the competitor and all of us, this is a great way to experience the dreaded state of tilt.
What you say to me, you little
A suboptimal mental state that leads to anger, frustration, and depression.
Why you do that?
The biggest trigger of frustration and tilt for myself is the feeling of being powerless to change my current situation. Human beings naturally crave control over their environment and an almost primal need to feel safe and secure. This is why we feel so many negative emotions when things seem out of our control, even if it's just a video game. This is why getting angry or defensive is actually a pretty natural reaction to mistakes causing your control over the game to slip away. Frustration and sadness are likely to arise when it feels like we can't change the inevitably painful outcome of losing a game. In a game like Valorant, this is a common experience because we are not in control of everything. It's a team game after all, with a bunch of individual players all trying to impact the outcome of the game. Even if you play perfectly, an unlikely scenario in a game as hard and complex as Valorant, you can't optimize the actions of your 4 teammates. This means that there are a lot of mistakes being made that are completely out of your control. Because of this, when something goes wrong, it's really easy to point the finger at that and assign blame to it.
None of my teammates
Last
are
player
A.
standing.
None of my teammates are A. No one's pushed. They all leave. They get faked every round. They always over-rotate. Actually trolling.
In fact, this is the most common way that humans deal with problems that cause discomfort or pain. It's much easier to externalize the issue by blaming others or other factors for our failures than to accept that we are at fault. It's a protection mechanism that helps our ego stay safe from harm. And I'm only speaking from experience here, but I assume many of you can probably relate to how quickly our brain can create a narrative that makes it super easy to shift the responsibility of a poor outcome on a bad crosshair or lag or running shots or, a smurf on the other team. The wild part about this ego defense mechanism is that it actually creates a vicious cycle of problems. When we lack control over a negative situation and blame others for the problem, we are actually giving them control over the situation and reinforcing our lack of power to influence things to make it better. Since the negative emotions arose from feeling powerless in the first place, we have made our situation even worse and are even more likely to continue experiencing frustration and fear of failure. Now, don't get me wrong, there are absolutely games where your teammates are awful and the other team is completely owning you.
No! What? What? He's missing around and 180's me! No! No way!
These games are very likely to be unwinnable, even if you are playing perfectly. However, it's really hard to tell the difference between an unwinnable game
way!
and just one that is slightly harder than normal. And this is because when you are playing a game that is harder than others, it creates pressure to perform. Pressure then creates a stressful environment and makes mistakes more likely to occur, and mistakes obviously make the game more difficult to win. They can easily make a totally winnable game feel much harder than it actually is. All this is caused by the pressure you're putting on yourself or your teammates to play well because you're afraid of experiencing losing.
Dude, the only reason that, I'm just annoyed is that this guy has never once actually taken the criticism. He plays it off like it's a joke.
In contrast, the feeling of being empowered and in control is one of the most positive human experiences. Realizing that you aren't the victim of an uncontrollable situation is an incredibly important state of mind to reach.
Nice, Mike. You're a god, baby. Let's go.
Even when things are getting difficult, being able to recognize that that difficulty is having an effect on your mentality is a big step to take because you become aware of what is going on. If you avoid the easy way out of accepting that you have no control, it forces you to then refocus on just doing your best in whatever situation you're in.
Don't forget our motto. Don't give a fuck. The less we give, the better we will play.
This is great because playing your best is fun. It's fun to feel good at the game. So when you focus on having fun by playing well, it pulls you back into the present moment instead of living in the hellish future that you've been dreading to face of losing the game. Then, You can take that experience and share it with your teammates through enabling them to play better. If you're struggling to stay positive, chances are others are as well, and giving them the best chance to do well by offering to do something like going in first so that they can trade you can completely change the team dynamic. One of the most common complaints in the average Valorant game is duelists who sit in the back. Realize that these are players who are likely just afraid of failing and being criticized for not doing their job in the game.
I'll flash. Keep going. You ready? Start lurking, buddy.
You can't control the baiting Reyna or Jett, but you can still empower them. It might not be the most optimal play to send your Killjoy or Sova in first to die, but if you can give your allies confidence by making their game easier, you are still the one who is taking control of the situation. You might even gain more power over the situation because your teammates will be more likely to listen to your calls if you're making them look good. You simply cannot seize control by ordering your teammates around or getting angry at how hard or out of control the game is. Return to the things that made the game fun initially. And I know this is difficult to do because, especially when you're in solo queue, there are so many random dynamics that are involved, and there could be 5 different players on your team with 5 completely different outlooks. However, just like any other skill, the mental game is a skill that you can practice. And practicing being this positive, powerful force in the game allows you to take back at least some control of your situation instead of just giving it all away and giving in to the negative feelings.
Let's go, Tyson!
That's my name.
I also find that outside areas of life have a pretty measurable impact on in-game performance. If you're feeling strong or empowered in your real life because you have accomplished something meaningful during the day, you're much more likely to share that empowered feeling with everyone around you. For example, if I hit the gym and feel strong, or I solve some real life problem and feel smart, I will more likely come into my games with that same feeling already in place. The first major step to dealing with tilt and getting better at the mental game is to first just be able to recognize when this cycle is happening, because that makes it much easier to then interrupt it in the future and stop the cycle of negativity causing more negative outcomes to occur.